Hello. We have a tradition of reporting on progress and announcing new developments at the annual Everglades Coalition meeting. I didn't want to break that tradition, so I appreciate the opportunity to send this message via video. Let me begin by congratulating this year's conference co-chairs, Aaron Deedy and Frank Jackalone. The agenda you've organized highlights how far we have come these past few years, as well as the opportunities ahead. I remember a year ago humbly receiving the honor of being designated a steward of the Everglades. Governors receive many recognitions, some more deserved than others, but few have meant as much to me as that honor. That's because few things are more important to South Florida's environment and economy than restoring the Everglades, and few things are more important to me. I also remember my first meeting with you where it was duly noted, some might say you were duly warned, that I was a conservative Republican born in the Texas oil patch to an oilman father, and I went on to become a developer in Florida. Well, all those things are still true, as they always will be. But we have some new truths we didn't have 3 years ago. We have launched the largest environmental restoration project the world has ever known. All of our critical land acquisitions are on schedule. Environmental results are exceeding expectations in the Kissimmee River headwaters. The first ever pollution limits have been established for Lake Okeechobee, and 6 stormwater treatment areas have been constructed on budget and on schedule and are performing 50% better than expected. And on that oil issue, just for the record, we have prevented new drilling leases in the Everglades and off of Florida's coast. Never before has Florida's coastline been so protected. I think we also have established new levels of access and confidence between my office and yours. This is going to help us as we work through some important issues in the months ahead. 3 things come to mind. First, how do we make sure that the water entering the Everglades gets cleaned up? The science has confirmed what many of you have long suspected. Phosphorus levels in the Everglades must be brought down to 10 parts per billion. I was pleased to personally appear before the Environmental Regulatory Commission to make that recommendation. But I also know full well that there is a big difference between setting a standard and achieving it. We all know that it will take decades before such an exacting standard can be met across more than 2 million acres. However, there will be no backsliding, only forward progress with timely and measurable results. Our challenge is to simultaneously ensure the retreat of cattails in the Everglades protection area while staving off the march of the red-tiled roofs of development into the Everglades agricultural area. We can do this through new investments in water quality, while limiting the possibility of expensive delays caused by litigation. The second thing I want to mention is the agreement I need to sign with my brother that promises Florida will reserve the water necessary for natural systems before federal money is released for construction projects. We will do this to make sure that federal money keeps flowing and projects stay on schedule. More importantly, we'll do this because it is the right thing to do. If anybody questions Florida's resolve to reserve water for healthy ecosystems, I direct your attention north to the Apalachicola River. There we've been in difficult discussions with our neighboring states over equitable water allocations. But my instructions have been clear. There must be no compromise that fails to secure the minimum flows necessary to maintain the functional integrity of that river and the bay environment. The same holds true for the Everglades. The difference is we don't have to negotiate with another government, and the legal tools for water reservations are already in place. Finally, there is the need to keep paying the bills for Everglades restoration. We are starting the new year off right. All the bills are paid. There is money in the savings account, and we have a perfect credit record. We've done this despite wartime conditions in which overall revenues have temporarily fallen short of the mark. I've been reading recently about the Everglades funding problem. There are plenty of other programs funded by the state that wish they enjoyed the same strong position as the Everglades. I suspect the real concern being expressed was, will Everglades funding always be in such great shape? Here again, the news is good. Consider the fact that key legislators, Republicans and Democrats from North and South Florida, have already indicated their support to borrow money, if ever needed, to keep restoration on track. I agree that we should be prepared to borrow the money if necessary. However, I would go a step further. If the Everglades are the priority we say they are, then let's do everything we can first to make sure we don't have to borrow money. Let's use sound money management to make sure we have revenues for this project that are secure and reliable, and debt-free. Unbudgeted interest payments in future years would make it less likely, not more likely, that the project would be completed on schedule. This is particularly true if debt is taken on in these early stages that will come due a decade from now when we are in our peak spending years. In a few days, I will announce in our budget plan our proposal to fully fund Everglades restoration at $100 million for the third year in a row. What will be different this year are the sources of that revenue, sources that are more reliable and more secure than ever before, and which I believe can be part of a long-term funding solution for this project. It's a three-part plan. First, it continues the proven reliable commitment of dedicating $25 million a year from our Florida Forever program for Everglades land acquisition. Second, it provides a dedicated source of funds by capturing the growth in dock stamp revenues in the state's subsidized housing program. Because of growing revenues, the housing program can remain fully funded at current levels while providing increasing amounts for Everglades restoration. Beginning with $13 million a year in the early years, this dedicated revenue source will grow to as much as $25 million annually by 2010. Third, we will provide a secure source of funding by better managing existing Florida Forever debt and by tapping excess dock stamp revenue before it rolls over into general revenue accounts. Currently, as a condition of bonding, substantial dock stamp revenue is held in reserve to help guarantee our Florida Forever debt. We can free this money up today for Everglades restoration by insuring our debt rather than keeping large amounts of cash in reserve. Using surety bonds to meet our debt service reserve requirements on existing debt is a more cost-effective strategy for securing additional resources than simply taking on additional new debt. This, when combined with a commitment to direct a portion of the predictable growth in dock stamp revenue directly into the Everglades Trust Fund before it is placed into a general revenue account, will make 50 to 60 million reliable debt-free dollars available every year for the Everglades for the rest of this decade. Total it all up, and we have our 10-year, $1 billion commitment for the Everglades from the state of Florida. I applaud the broad political commitment in Florida to fund this project, and I respect the need for contingencies, including borrowing, should that ever become necessary. It is an option that should always remain on the table. But with the support of the legislature and the cabinet, I will insist we first exercise every option to ensure that reliable, secure, debt-free dollars are committed to Florida's highest environmental priority. We've come a long way together these past few years. This year is no exception. A phosphorus standard of 10 parts per billion, a confirmation that water for natural systems always comes first, and a secure funding plan to meet the state's billion-dollar commitment. Not bad. And we acknowledge the Everglades Coalition's role in helping us get there. This year, as is the case every year, you are all stewards of the Everglades. Thanks for your continued leadership, and Happy New Year.